The Bob Dylan world gathered in Tulsa, Oklahoma this weekend to celebrate the opening of the Bob Dylan Center. CBS Sunday Morning marked the occasion by interviewing the guy behind the scenes running the show and reminded everybody how could you not know how important Bob Dylan is and has been to our culture. May must be Bob Dylan month on CBS Sunday Morning because on May 11th, 2008, Suze Rotolo, or Rotolo, depending on your pronunciation, this report threw me a loop because I've been calling her Rotolo my whole life, mostly because of neighbor girl Ann Rotolo. But anyhow, her and May Pang both had written books about being lovers of brilliant men whose art and work and music and poetry many of us live by more than just enjoy. And everybody's always asking these guys, how did you write the song? What does it mean? And few of these people can answer. Paul Simon can, because I think he just crafts it rather than it coming out of his head, you know. A lot of these people have to write. They've got to empty their heads. That's my impression. And the brilliant ones are getting it from above. They wake up and write the song and it just comes out of them. Dylan says that over and over and over again. And it lets you know what he's doing is real. So enjoy this piece of CBS Sunday Morning from 2008. Happy Bob Dylan life.
Legendary performers were rocking the pop music world a few decades back. Now, a few of their former romantic companions are rocking the boat with personal memoirs and photographs. Here's our Serena Altschul.
A Greenwich Village street. But who's that girl?
It'll never do somehow.
It was freezing. That's what I remember. It was freezing. And I had many layers of sweaters that I put on underneath, whereas Bob wore a thin jacket to look, no idea, and was very surprised that they chose that one to be the cover. I thought they'd take one of Bob by himself.
45 years later, Rotolo has written a memoir, putting her in tune with a new trend. From Eric Clapton's ex, Pattie Boyd, to John Lennon's girlfriend, May Pang, to Nancy Lee Andrews, Ringo Starr's former fiancée, a genre has evolved. Books by rock star love interests. What can we learn about Bob Dylan from your book that we're not going to learn from all of the others?
Anyone could write about that period, but through my eyes, it's personal. It's my personal history, my personal story, and seeing this man who became an icon.
Old New York City is a friendly old town from Washington.
He may be an icon now, but his first Greenwich Village apartment, which he shared with Rotolo in 1961, was anything but grand. She took us to the building.
And he rented this one. We're on the top floor in the rear. It was hot in summer and cold in winter.
Little apartment.
Very little apartment.
Studio?
One tiny bedroom and a tiny kitchen in the main room.
Rotolo first laid eyes on Dylan only a few blocks away,
Honey, just allow me one more
at
chance.
a club called Gertie's Folk City.
Honey, just allow me one more chance.
He was playing backup harmonica. When they met, she was 17, he was 20.
Just a one kind favor I'll ask you. Allow me just a one more chance.
A romance ignited quickly, fueled by their mutual love of poetry, and lasted almost 4 years. So within that first year of knowing him, he became very famous. That's so much pressure on a relationship.
Yes. Well, I think it's very difficult for the artist, too. People would take him as the gospel, that he could give the word on anything. And why would that be? He was basically an entertainer.
I've stumbled on the side of 12 misty
An entertainer obsessed with writing lyrics.
I've walked and I crawled on 6 crooked highways.
When not writing lyrics, Dylan wrote romantic inscriptions to Rotolo, like this one in a poetry book he gave her as a gift, and was still penning words of affection about her 4 decades later in his 2004 memoir. He characterizes you in a particular way that's, quite moving. He says she had a smile that could light up a street full of people, a Rodin sculpture come to life. How does it feel for him to say that and to characterize you like that?
That's nice, no?
Rotolo is not the only rock star muse with a book.
Whatever gets you through the night, it's all right.
There's also May Pang's new volume of John Lennon photographs. She was Lennon's mistress between 1973 and 75, when he was separated from Yoko Ono. It was known as his lost weekend. He was rumored to be depressed.
Whatever gets you through your life.
But Pang says just the opposite. Those were years of rebirth.
It was the most productive time in his solo career. We came back to New York and we did Walls and Bridges. That was his #1 album with his only #1 single in his lifetime. And that was Whatever Gets You Through the Night.
What do we learn about him from these photographs?
I guess the vulnerability, he was like you and me, when he was away from all the camera. He just liked to do the normal things.
Pang took pictures of just about everything in both New York and Los Angeles, where the couple split their time. There's Lennon's reunion with his young son Julian after several years apart. And then there's the signing of the papers that officially disbanded the Beatles. Was he resolved about it?
Yeah, he was resolved. I mean, he took a deep breath. If you look at that picture, he's the last one to sign it. He started it and he's ending it. His signature was the last one. This picture here?
Pang has since been married and divorced, but she's always kept her Lennon photographs stowed away at home.
Here's some drawings for you.
A home that at times feels more like a John Lennon museum. There are pieces of history.
This is my Walls and Bridges gold record, which I treasure a lot.
There are personal mementos.
This was John's favorite poetry book, Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
And then there's a larger item you'd never expect to see firsthand.
This was the bed that John and I bought together.
Oh, and this was in your apartment?
This was in our apartment, so when you look in the book and you see us laying in this bed where he's looking at TV, this is the bed.
And if you look hard enough, you can almost see the world through Lennon's eyes.
Because he wore these.
So he had very poor vision.
Here.
Because these are they're so hard to, he was really like almost blind.
So was I.
Oh my gosh.
It's blind leading the blind.
Nobody loves you when you're down and out.
When was the last time you spoke with him?
Wow. 1980, Memorial Weekend. I had some friends over and the phone rang. And all I heard was, hi, May. And I went, and I knew. My heart had just skipped a beat. And I said, John, it's great.
I've been across to the other side.
Last night, in the courtyard of the Landmark...
John Lennon died later that year.
John Lennon was shot to death.
Pang says his legend and that of the Beatles will always remain.
They changed the world, not of only music, but they changed the world of how we dress, how we looked, how we talked.
I decided to do a visual memoir.
As for Suze Rotolo, she's now a visual artist exhibiting her work at a Manhattan gallery.
And this is actually a piece of a letter.
Married with a grown son, she says she tries to avoid nostalgia about Bob Dylan.
Away from my window.
But it's hard not to look back and reflect on a decade of such profound cultural change.
It was a very fruitful period in all the arts, and also socially. The civil rights movement was going on, the war in Vietnam was firing up, so it was a hotbed of all these different things.
One to open each and every...
And Dylan became kind of the the mover and the shaper of the period.
No, 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 it ain't me, babe.
Thanks for watching Cleveland Live Music. If you like what you saw, please hit the subscribe button, and there's further subscription options listed below.